Dr. Nice, are you there? Yeah.
Yes, sir, I'm there.
So let me start recording one second. Uday, shall we start? I have started the recording.
Yeah, let us start
Yes,
because
sure. Yeah,
because
okay,
I'm
sir.
also not keeping well, so I have my
Oh,
own.
sorry, sir.
In
Sorry,
fact,
sir.
I was traveling, came back, so having bad cough. So I don't know how long I'll manage, but I'll try to justify with this.
No, sure. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Nice, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Kalpesh, sir. So a very good evening to all one and present here, and a very welcome to Professor Uday Shankar, sir, Associate Professor, Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law, IIT Kharagpur. Before we proceed to the session, I'm honored to introduce sir. So Professor Uday Shankar, sir, is an accomplished legal scholar, as we all know, and an educator with over 20 years of teaching and research experience. And currently, as I have already told you all, that sir is an associate professor at Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law, IIT Kharagpur. He has also served as registrar at Hidayatullah National Law University from the session 2021 to 2024. And sir is a recipient of prestigious international fellowships. Sir has been awarded a visiting fellowship by the University of Macerata, Italy, 2024. Sir has also served as guest professor under the Magdalene Scotch Fellowship at the Faculty of Law, University of Hamburg in 2016, and received a fellowship from the Max Planck Institute of Comparative Public Law and International Law in 2008. Sir is a distinguished member of the Scientific Committee of the Global Pandemic Network and also serves as India's country coordinator for the network. Sir is actively involved in its working groups and serves as on the editorial board of the journal Legal Policy and Pandemics. Sir is a member of the International Association of Constitutional Law and a life member of the Indian Law Institute, Delhi. Sir has his own 3 online courses, that is Introduction to Law on Electricity, Central State Relations in India, and Directive Principles of State Policy and Fundamental Duties, which are offered under the Ministry of Education NEPTIL's initiative. Sir has successfully led research projects in energy laws, transport law, and access to justice, funded by both national and international organizations. Additionally, Sir has organized several GIAM, that is Global Initiative of Academic Networks courses, and short-term programs as well on labor law and Make in India and Skill India. Professor Uday Shankar, sir, expertise and contributions continue to shape the discourse in legal education and research. Sir, a very warm welcome to the 2 weeks online capacity building program on strategies for teaching clinical papers in Indian Law School for the session and the topic on the outcome-based legal education. Sir, please, over to you.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Good evening, and thanks for very generous introduction, I must say. Thanks to the organizing committee and Professor Kalpesh for extending this invite. Indeed, a matter of privilege for me to communicate and to interact on a very important area which has been opted or which has been selected for FDP, which is outcome-based learning. When I looked at the topic and tried to understand that how the session shall go on this important area, I realized that it is more of a kind of topic to be demonstrated instead of delivering lecture, because I believe many of us would agree who are participants here that knowingly or unknowingly many of us are following this practice, and in that process uh, possibly we may not be highlighting that we are following this particular mode or method of learning, but then we do follow or we do practice something very nearer to this outcome based. Now let us try to understand that what is this outcome based learning. Outcome based learning, to me, it is all about identifying the requirement of market. That's how I would begin with. that when you are imparting education, and that to professional education, it is desirable to first assess the market and then accordingly work on the course. Because I would not say that first assess the try to assess the objective of the course and then start working on it. I would say first assess the market, and then after assessing the market, let us try to analyze that what kind of skill setting the market is looking for, and accordingly course curriculum needs to be designed. For example, I mean, please excuse me if you find me giving good number of examples from constitutional law, because that is my area of interest, and uh, I'm the student of constitutional law that way for last 2 decades or so. So I will try to give an example with that. Now, when I look at the constitutional law as a subject to be taught in the law school, uh, 10 or 20 years ago, the subject was largely seen as a subject primarily significant uh, for building a career as a lawyer, that too in the higher courts. That's how we try to. Uh, there is someone has raised the hand. This is for some question, or Shikha Burma. I see that, or it is by mistake.
No, sir, it's by mistakes.
Okay, okay, fine. Okay, so it seems that the participant has raised hand for very long.
Yes, sir.
So now when I look at the subject in today's context, it is not only about equipping the law student to do well in the constitutional practice, or starting a litigation in the constitutional court. I see that in today's context, this subject becomes very relevant also to give a better insight on analyzing nuances of law. For example, the way the court has evolved proportionality principle, to examine the constitutionality of the state action. Now, if you look at the very approach of the court on proportionality scheme, you would find that that is something which is becoming very relevant to also understand that what factors are to be taken into account for challenging the state action. And when I say state action, it did not be in the perspective of public law. It could be even service law. So to me, outcome based learning should start with the requirement of the market. So first and foremost thing is to be taken up or taken note of is that how the market is really transforming in the area which you are being off which you are going to offer in the law school. That is the first step to look at. And this is something which is different from the traditional practice what we used to follow earlier. No, earlier it was more of ensuring that the learner in our classroom setup must get the necessary information, and then that symbolizes the success. That if you have successfully completed the syllabus, said all the basic concepts, clarified those basic concepts with supporting examples or case laws, that's good enough for convincing oneself that job is done. This outcome based learning is a kind of complete shift from this way of teaching learning process. Because in traditional system, when you examine it closely, you would find that that is more of I decide the course outline, and accordingly I decide the pedagogy, and I decide that what necessary information I aim to share with the or I aim to impart with the students. That's all. So in the entire process, if you analyze it closely, you find that it is more of course instructor driven. How, as a course instructor, I plan the course. And at the end of the day, how do I really evaluate on kind of selected parameters that I have successfully imparted the information on the course uh, design I have prepared. Now, if you look at this traditional model, you'll find that this traditional model somewhere disconnects the learner and the demand of the market. And in that process, it also disconnects me as a course instructor. It is not that only learner is getting disconnected. I'm also getting disconnected because I'm not making any humble attempt to understand that at the end of the day, how the learner is going to confront the market. I'm not bothered. My system or the entire process of imparting education is irrelevant on that front. So that becomes uh, a kind of core factor on traditional system. You'd agree with me that this is something which would not be very appropriate in the present context. Why in the present context it would not be appropriate? Because in the because we have got a task of making the education meaningful. I'm not talking about placement. Generally we try to get confused between placement and making the education meaningful. Education need not be always targeted towards placement. Placement could be just one of the outcomes of multiple goals what we try to pursue in this profession. So meaningful, I would say outcome. Now, when I say meaningful outcome, let's say, for example, I design the course on fundamental duties. Now, when I design the course on fundamental duties, I need not focus much on how this duty is going to get, enforced through the judicial process or through legal action. Possibly, my approach would be to give a philosophical underpinning to the students in order to understand that how duty or duties is integrally connected with the constitutional design. So if you try to relate it with rights, which is largely on developing a strategy to be a good lawyer, duties may be for a different purpose altogether when I'm focusing on duties in my syllabus. So meaningful contribution is something which is very, very pivotal on planning the course. That what precisely is my aim in that course. So outcome-based learning ideally is student-centric. When I say student-centric, I would prefer to use a very generic term, learner-centric. Now, when I say learner-centric, it is a big challenge is how do I see the learner in my class? Do I see them as a compact unit, or do I see them as fragmented unit? And accordingly, I develop a strategy of sharing the information on that subject and skilling them. That's very relevant and that's very pertinent. I believe you would agree with me. The moment you say that a class should be a compact unit, then in that case, you will end up having unified strategy for the entire class. And that unified strategy may not be very handy in giving you the desirable result. Because in that case, again, the focus would not be on the learner, the focus would be on the syllabus. The moment you go for a unified strategy, one single strategy for dealing with the subject. So outcome-based learning requires to also assess and evaluate the composition of the class. That's very important. Then what is that composition of the class? So one is assessing the market, and other is assessing the composition of class. When I say assessing the composition of class, I do not mean the assessment based on the very idea of weak and strong student. No, that is possibly just one parameter where you try to identify who is weak and who is better. I would say that assessment should be done depending upon the career goal of the students. The moment you say that it has to be done on the basis of career goal, accordingly you would be compelled to develop strategies. Then one strategy would not work. One strategy would not work in that case. So assess the composition, and through that process, you try to identify the goal. Then what is that career goal the students are looking for? For example, the students may not, after pursuing law, may not be at all interested in going to the court. Possible. I mean, law schools are well known for producing that kind of product. Majority of them, they are interested to go in the sector where there is least interaction with the traditional judicial institution. Even these days, you must be observing that the alumni from law schools who are occupying high positions in the law firm, they advertise in their social media that they have successfully, they are part of a team which has successfully negotiated high value merger and acquisition. Unlike what we were experiencing what we were experiencing some 20-25 years back, where a big acknowledgement or appreciation was when the name was being reported in the law reports as an advocate. We used to say, we used to know this from our seniors that, okay, see, my name has been reported multiple times in the law report as an appearing advocate. Now you find that social media is generally flooded with this kind of information, where the accomplished alumni of the law schools, they post this kind of information. So career goal is different, and accordingly we need to really look at the entire learning process. That's why it is teaching learning process. It's not only a teaching process. The moment you commit a mistake of taking your profession only as a teaching, believe me, you are losing the track. It is a teaching learning process, where you are also very particular about identifying the career goals of the student, and accordingly you are building the plan or building the strategy. That's the reason why in outcome-based learning, you'd find that the entire exercise starts from backward. It starts from backward. It is not something which we start looking at it from the, right, we define the syllabus, and then, then we
Sir, I think connection issues there. Kalpesh sir?
Yes, sir is there. Maybe some sir.
No,
Cough and
no,
cold.
sir is
Sir is having.
Sir
Sir
is
is here only.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here only. As I said,
Yeah,
no,
no,
that
no
I'm
problem,
not keeping, I'm not keeping well. So I mean,
No, no problem.
I traveled, so got a very bad throat. And because it was first session, I thought of not requesting Professor Kalpesh to reschedule my session. So it is all about, It is all about first identifying the goal. That's how we need to look at it. That how do we identify the goal? So that's how we need to understand that the outcome based learning is about not defining or determining the syllabus at the first instance, but first identify the career goal. First identify the market. That what kind of demand is there in the market, what kind of product the market is looking for, what kind of industry ready students the the market is looking for, and accordingly you make that. And in that process you then assess the composition of the class. So first and foremost thing is that what is the goal, what is the aim as a course instructor you aim to achieve in your course. That's the first one. No? And when you say goal, try to give some kind of try to give some kind of numbers to it, measurable parameters. So for example, if you are teaching basic concept, then when you're teaching basic concept, you try to see when you have to evaluate, you try to see the evaluation in the form of MCQ. That is best way of doing it when you're trying to assess the competence of the students on basic concepts or the core concepts. So second thing is, first thing is goal, what I am aiming for, what I wish that my students should be looking at, how the market should accept it. And here again, I'm not talking about one market. I'm talking about the market which is the market which is having a very kind of spread characteristics. Second is that as a course instructor, I need to see that what is that proficiency which the student should achieve. What I'm really looking for. How do I really look for that what I have aimed is getting fulfilled or not? That's something which is very important to look at. So first is when the way the literature identifies it. First it says that the identification. Second is the kind of evaluation. Third is something which closely connects with that. Once you identify the goal, once you identify the evidence of a student proficiency, that how are you going to really look at it, then you are going to accordingly develop the pedagogy and material. Pedagogy and material. You are not going for any kind of a standard that okay, I'll give only case laws, I'll give only scholarly writings. Then it will not be based on student centric, outcome based. Depending upon the goal, you are deciding the pedagogy, you are deciding the material. That's what is very, very important. Got it? So this is something which we need to keep in mind, that how do we really plan the teaching method? how do we really develop teaching method, and what necessary materials must be part of the course design. When you are identifying the teaching material, always keep in mind that it must have a connect with the goal, outcome, what you have kept in mind, because you are now moving in a backward direction. You are not moving in a forward direction, you are moving in a backward direction. That is something which is very important. Here you are deciding on the pedagogy, deciding on the material midway. You are not starting with that. You are starting with the identification of the goal. Then you are trying to understand that what is the, what is the process of evaluating the student's proficiency. How do you really see that students have achieved that goal? And then once you identify that pedagogy and the material, then you look at the process of evaluation, that what should be my grading method, because that becomes very important. In outcome based method, it is important to take note that a student may be poor in getting a better understanding on philosophical aspect, but he may be very good on oral communication. A student may be very good on research. A student may be very good on analyzing something. So gradings must be, evaluation process must be accordingly customized. That's what is something very, very important. So this is how, if you look at it, the entire process should be planned. So in the outcome based method, which our NEP has advocated in a big way. I was reading somewhere the statistics where it says that considering the demographic dividend of this country, that young population of this country, we need to badly work upon outcome based, because employable workforce in this country is only 50%. So you may have workforce educated, but you may not have workforce which is employable. Outcome based learning focuses on that. It focuses on employability. And that's what I was reading that this NEP is trying to do. That's what, in fact, the aim of accreditation process also. No? For example, I was reading this in the Hindu, which says that economic survey of 23-24 has indicated that 65% of the Indian population would be below age of 35. And in this, 51.525% youth are only employable. And that is because of the non-prioritized or absence of the priority in educational sector. Outcome-based learning is trying to address it. In legal education, this becomes more challenging, because our market is ever evolving. Our market is ever evolving. You would agree with me that of late, the students are also targeting think tanks as a potential employer. They are not only looking at law firm job or something with the advocates. So in outcome-based education, in outcome-based learning process, the course planning happens in reverse, where as a course instructor, I start with the identification of the goal, the desirable result. Then I work on the evidence necessary to determine the results, determine that the results have been achieved, and then I plan the teaching methodology, which needs to be evaluated, keeping that goal in mind. So if you look at it, that is what is the pathway which is being followed in outcome based, in this reverse backward design kind of the courses. And as I said, that in this process of identifying the goal, you need to be very careful as a course instructor. What is that? That in addition to identify the very focus on gaining insights on fundamentals, because certainly we aim that students should learn fundamentals. We may also like our students to develop the necessary skill which is required, maybe for a lawyer, maybe for a researcher, or maybe for a communicator. So when you are attempting to come up with a syllabus for this kind of model, it is suggested that those goals are also to be identified and articulated. Don't try to develop this understanding that is not part of the desirable outcome of the course. That is also desirable outcome of the course. Because if you are not planning to do that, then believe me, you are missing the very essential characteristics of outcome based. Philosophically, if I have to say and explain, to me, outcome based education is not about norms. It is not about norms. It is more of looking at what is that expectation of the market. What is that students need to know, need to understand, and undertake necessary learnings related to that subject. And if you look at these factors, there you would find that this is possible only when you try to understand the composition of class. Now, when I say you try to understand the composition of class, it need not be understood in this, kind of understanding that, okay, let the class come, join, and then accordingly I start making the syllabus. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not focusing on that. What I'm saying is that going by your, experience of previous years, you would be building upon it. That is something which will give you a kind of starting point. That's something which is important to take note of. Otherwise, one can build an argument that, okay, let the session begin, let the 1 month begin, then I will start working. No, that I'm not advocating for. And if you look at these components, individual components, you would agree with me that there in that process, you are identifying the components of the course which otherwise become significant after graduating. No, for example, I'm very sure, I believe I'm communicating with colleagues who are into law teaching. I believe that you must be also hearing this kind of comments from your students when they go for internship and return back. They say, sir, our mentor has said that what you are learning in the law school has got no significance. Real learning happens in the courtroom. Now, one way of addressing this observation is to make the classroom teaching in such a way so that the learning which is happening in courtroom, at least the basics of the same can be also become integral part of the goal here in your course. When I say basic, what I mean, I really don't mean, I mean, giving an example of the one who aspires to become a lawyer. That I don't mean the one, who wants to go law firm and all. And certainly, even for the courtroom practice, I don't mean how to deal with court clerks and, registry offices, but at least good drafting skill, good oral skill, good, communication skill. That can also become part of the goal outcome. And if you look at the, the course in a very holistic way, you can identify these goals and accordingly see that the students are learning the processes. So when you try to identify the goal and try to look at the evidences which are needed for examining, evaluating a student's proficiency, possibly following factors can be kept in mind. That how to develop fundamentals, how to ensure that the students are getting educated on fundamentals of that subject, which is more of academic knowledge. How to see that fundamentals are facilitating the students to engage in real-time challenges. And how that training is helping the students in making judgments under conditions of uncertainty. And overall, how after completing the learning, they are contributing to the growth of the discipline. That is something you can look at it. So basic knowledge, then that basic knowledge helping them to address real-time issues, then train them to make judgments under conditions of uncertainty, and how they contribute in the larger ecosystem of learning. Now, when I say how do they learn in the larger ecosystem of learning, that should be also understood in terms of ethics. I believe that is something which has been overlooked these days. To me, that is very, very important to take note of. I really don't know. You may find some of my observations very theoretical in nature, and a very relevant question which comes, that how the entire exercise what I am advocating for fits into your law school setup. Because at the end of the day, there is some kind of broader guideline given by the law school, and accordingly you are working on your course. So that is also a challenge, because there may be some set pattern, and then you have to follow with that. I think when you talk about outcome-based learning, to me, a necessary flexibility must be given to the faculty. Flexibility in terms of goal identification, flexibility in terms of grading the students. Because if you're not giving flexibility in grading the performance, believe me, the entire outcome based is not going to give you the result. Because of the very simple reason that, as I said, that skill of a student may be very poor on one aspect, but may be very good on another aspect. So he must be told about that. Now, if you look at the traditional way of doing it, you would agree with me, in traditional way of doing it, we try to evaluate the student in a very flat way. If a student is getting, let's say, 50-55%, he may be a good orator, but he has been termed as poor students. Now, in outcome based, that good oration, good communication skill must be graded as excellent, so that he should be told that, okay, you are poor on this aspect, but you are certainly very good on the other aspect. Then only this outcome based learning will have a tangible result. Now, I really don't know to what extent this is really possible in the law school system. So that is something which all of us have to internally, take it up. I have no solution to that. I have no immediate answer to that question. If those questions are there in your mind, because you may say that what I'm saying is more of, academic in nature. Possibly yes. Possibly yes, with my limited experience of the law school and in general legal academia. Possibly yes, because the degree of flexibility, the degree of creativity which is being agreed upon is very much varied, no doubt about it. So I am acknowledging this limitation. Now, on a course framework, to me it is very important that are we really trying to cover everything, or we are strategically identifying certain things which may be part of the core planning, core thing of the course, and rest we leave it to be learned through different processes. Because in a semester system, you have very limited time. So when you're planning the course outline, try to connect it with certain pedagogy, which would make the subject matter covered through different pedagogy. For example, group discussion. For example, certain sessions are to be taken by industry experts. Generally, we have the practice of engaging industry experts, and that further gets supplemented by the in-house faculty. May not be desirable. Let the industry expert come and let the student, consider that aspect to be covered by the industry expert, and accordingly the evaluation shall happen. So that did not become part of again the end semester exam. Otherwise, I on a lighter note, I say that in India we do have 4 seasons, and in academics we have 5th one, which is known as the exam season. So we are so obsessed with exam system, exam pattern, and that's how the entire learning ecosystem, if you look at it in India, is built upon. The learning phase is different, exam phase is different. So course design must be done considering these aspects. Very important to look at. That how do we really frame the course? What factors are being considered for adding or deleting certain courses? For example, in many of the universities where we teach constitutional law, third-tier government still doesn't feature as one of the main components. And if the constitution is all about quality of life, ensuring guarantee quality of life, you would agree with me that third-tier government plays a very significant role. But we do not really talk that how third-tier government is entrusted with the responsibility in the constitution. So course framework needs to be worked upon. But then, as I said, it is equally important to see that how the design of the course overall aligns with the goal of the institution, the vision or mission of the institution. That's equally important. We cannot overlook the same. On evaluation front, it is very important to take note that as a course instructor, I am very clear that what kind of parameters I am looking for evaluating the students on gaining that skill. That's very important. If I am making my class to learn with the help of case laws in constitutional law, my entire exam should not be based on explain Article 21. Doesn't get connected. If I want them to learn the evolving facets of the right to life, possibly my question should be based on that how do we really see 21 getting further expanded to include right of non-humans, and what is the accountability of the state. So always keep in mind that the desirable goal what you are keeping and the assessment process must have a kind of perfect harmony. If that is not there, then the entire outcome-based learning is going to collapse. So as a course instructor, I need to be very clear that how transparent I am in really looking at the parameters. This is something which is very this is something which is very important to take note of. No. Then let me come to an important point, that during the course of learning, we must be in a position to assess the degree of learning. There where your entire planning of assessment should be done. If the pattern of learning is not getting assessed in a periodical way, believe me, outcome-based learning is not making any sense. So assessment needs to be contextual. Assessment needs to be closely aligned with the outcome what I'm looking for. And how do I really assess that? One way of assessing is nothing wrong in getting peer review. Nothing wrong in it. That I ask my colleague to help me in giving me a true feedback, honest feedback on the outcome, that whether my students are getting benefited from the scheme I have opted for. So the very assessment criteria must be based on the very aim which I have kept in mind while formulating a module in the syllabus. So nothing wrong, as I said, if the module is on basic concept, let that module be only evaluated based on MCQ. Nothing wrong in it. If the module is on understanding the real-time problem, let there be a problem-solving question to be asked. So assessment tool needs to be different. That's what we need to be kept in mind. Thus, nothing wrong in advocating that let there be no one tool for undertaking the assessment. Let us not advocate for it. So if there is no one tool, multiple tools you can go for. You can go for drafting, you can go for presentation, you can go for some kind of Socratic way of doing it, where a question is asked and there is a discourse taking place in the classroom setup, and accordingly evaluation is done. And in that process, if you are creative enough, you can also ask the student to evaluate themselves. I don't know to what extent it can be really materialized. As Professor Patil was telling, that we need to be a little careful, because we need to also introspect our strength and our weakness. Because in the process of giving them the opportunity to self-evaluate, we shouldn't be really delegating our core responsibility to them. So assessment could be of varied kind, and I believe nothing wrong in experimenting on this front. Like I see my colleague here in engineering department at IIT Kharagpur, I see when I interact with them, they say that some of them, they keep first 10 or 15 minutes of the class for quiz, or last 10 or 15 minutes for quiz, just to get an idea that how attentive students were in the class, or how they are following the discussion of in the class. Again, all this is subject to the institutional approval and permission. What we are discussing is all about how we should really understand the idea of outcome-based learning. I'm putting a disclaimer right, here, that all these suggestions are there subject to the institutional, approval, planning, coordination, whatever, whichever way you look at. So quiz could be a good idea to assess. We can ask them to give something very interesting, writing. Now, if you can recall, the third one I said is teaching pedagogy. We are moving in the backward direction. So third is the teaching pedagogy. In teaching pedagogy, as a course instructor, I am trying to see that the methodology what I'm adopting, how that methodology is helping my student to accomplish the goal which I have identified. No, we are moving in a back direction. We have started with the goal. So that is something which is important to take note of. So look at the goal, accordingly identify the pedagogy. If there is a disconnect, believe me, there will be a challenge. And in that process, you would end up adopting multiple teaching methods. With this multiple teaching methods, believe me, when you adopt that, there is a possibility of seeing the class as one integrated unit. This is something which facilitates the entire process. Multiple teaching method certainly facilitates the learning, and particularly in the courses where we are trying to train the students for the market. Because in that process, you identify the strength of the particular of the particular method, and accordingly employ that method for effective training. So there has to be a clear cut, very clear cut design, very clear cut goal, very clear cut, the evidences to examine the student proficiency, and accordingly the methodology. And this is something which can be very well be planned in the law subjects, depending upon how do you really structure the course. If you are taking up a core course, advisable to start with very fundamental one, then move further. Something very important to look at it. Now, before I conclude, I believe Professor Kalpesh will be excusing me because I'll be cutting short. Before I conclude, let me take you to the last stage. How do I grade students? How do I really come to a conclusion that what I aim to achieve, what my students are looking forward for gaining that skill, have they gained it or not? So how do I really do it? I would say that it is strongly advised or advocated that let there be different processes of evaluating it. That's what obviously is now implemented in the law schools, where you would find that many law schools, they have the component called continuing assessment. I really don't know to what extent that continuing assessment gives some kind of freedom to the faculties to decide the evaluation process. To me, the complete freedom should be given to the faculty, so that you can be creative. For example, I remember asking my students to draft the provisions on citizenship if they have been given the task of drafting in 2024. Currently, if you look at the provisions on citizenship in the Constitution, you have Article 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And except one, all the provisions in that chapter governs the issue of citizenship, what was relevant in 1950, not now. The only provision which is relevant now, it says that Parliament may by law govern on the issue of citizenship, where citizenship law has been enacted. Now, if you are given the task of drafting the Constitution, how do you really draft in 2024? How many provisions you will delete? How many provisions you will add? How do you really going to do that? Continuing assessment. Otherwise, when you teach constitutional law and when you teach this portion, you generally struggle that how to make this interesting. The students would ask, what is the entire fun of reading that a particular date was decided for accepting the people from neighboring country to this country, allowed them to move from this country and then allowed them to return back. What is this? So ask them to undertake this exercise. So continuing assessment to me should be a kind of sole domain of the faculty. Now, when I say sole domain, I'm also careful of this very fact that the same should not be also abused. the freedom, the autonomy should not be abused also. So it is always advisable to do a kind of audit assessment. This year you have given, what is the benefit? Next year again, what is the benefit? So let there be an audit assessment done of the different grading method what you're taking. So that is something which we need to look at. So different component needs to be there for the grading. Depending upon, you are asking the student to look at the practical aspect. You are asking the student to get understanding on philosophical thing. Now, whatever I have shared with you, you would agree with me that if you try to get it implemented, for that matter, any law program, going in this direction of identifying the goal, then looking at the parameters, evidences, which would help you in understanding the efficiency or proficiency of the student. Then accordingly, you design the course, accordingly, you plan the methodology of teaching, pedagogy, whatever you say. And then you grade the student. In that entire process, you would agree, you would find that the grading would not be better and worst student in the class. Grading would be based on the degree of learning, that's all. So in that case, in that scenario, no one would be a poor student in your class. Either the student has not picked it up, possibly because of non-identification of the appropriate goal, or possibly because of disconnected methodology. But then, very important to look at it, that the moment you make it student-centric, which is one of the important idea behind outcome-based, you are not coming with the design of first class and third class. Everyone is first class, depending on the very fact that what kind of goal you are identifying, what kind of outcome you are aiming at for your course. This is what I thought of sharing with you. If you have any comments, any question, most welcome.
Thank you so much, sir, for a very valuable and insight. So you very rightly said that it is not about norms, outcome-based legal education. It's not only about norms which we have to make. It is more to look at the market, what students need, what is the need of that particular time, and the real time issues, what is required, and the structure which you told us, that is very important, that it must be like sorry, it must be it should be in a format that we must see that what is the goal, what we want out of that particular course, then what the results we are about to get it, then the structure, the what evidences we have got about it, and then the teaching, learning, the course structure, everything. And you very rightly said, sir, that the students, everybody has his or her own strengths. It is not, it's about a degree of learning, not about what about the assessment of that particular students. It is more about the degree of learning and the freedom which you talk about the faculty members. And I'm also an assistant professor in law only, so I also think it should not be limited. We should be free to the faculty, we should be free to make our course structure and work accordingly. And same thing goes with that, it should be with the audit assessment. We should not take any kind of undue advantage of it, as you rightly said, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for a valuable session, very quite informative. Thank you so much. If anybody has
Yes,
any question,
yes.
yes, Kalpesh.
There are a couple of questions, sir. Yeah, there are a couple of
Yes, sir.
questions are there in the chat box.
Yes, that is what I was about to do. Sir, we have some questions with us. I would just like to know that one Dr. Anil Singh has asked us how to do in class with diverse goals. This question.
That's very obvious. There would be a diverse goal because, as I said, that the market demands that.
Yes.
Every student did not become kind of lawyer. Need not aim to become a good lawyer. Some of them may be looking forward to join think tank. So how to deal with that? A kind of assessment exercise to be done. And as I said, that this exercise what you are doing is not semester specific. This exercise what you are doing is a kind of continuation. So you know very well that what is you have some kind of fair idea that in general what kind of class composition you are going to handle. That some kind of your your experience should help you in building that assessment or in making that assessment.
Yeah.
So it is certainly a challenge. It is certainly a challenge because we are making it from teacher centric to student centric. The moment you say student centric, you have to deal. Now, how to deal is very simple. To me, you just once you have framed certain things, just have 1 or 2 sessions trying to understand that how the student really look forward for that subject. And it would be easier to take. Because, see, I'm very sure when you make the syllabus, you must have kept different pedagogies. Then try to understand that which module would go for what kind of pedagogy. Then try to understand that what kind of assignment you would like to give to which category of students. So with the strategies, it is possible. It is not, it's not possible.
Yes. Okay, sir. Thank you. So we have more questions with us that how law can be made better to cover up social change.
Law is all about, law is an important tool to address social issues. So, it is something which is very easier to do in a way by just keeping yourself updated with the uh, happenings happening around. I'm very sure you try to connect with the law, and then, for example, if you are teaching something on non-public law subjects and try to connect that the way these days corporatization happening of the entire service sector. That's not a difficult task. How law can be made better to cover up a social change. I don't know if you are asking that how law can really address the issue of social change. Then law has been doing it in a very gradual way. Law has its own pace to address it. It cannot do it overnight. If you are saying that how do you see law and legal education connecting with social change, I believe with a real-time example, you can effectively do that.
Thank you, sir. Sir, another question is, sir, Dr. Shakuntala Gowda has asked that she's taking ADR paper. So she just need a suggestion to how she will lesson plan, how she'll make a lesson. I think lesson plan, how she will create a
So
lesson plan.
what does it mean? I don't know. Does it mean that she wants to take input on how should I divide my sessions lecture wise,
Yeah,
or I don't know.
that is what she, yes.
That possibly.
Same question related to that. One more question is there related to the same thing is from Nikita Chaudhary, ma'am. Okay, sir, I am teaching jurisprudence to first year law students of 5 years course. Apart from philosophical concepts and case studies, what else should I add in my teaching?
I'll tell you best way of jurisprudence generally.
So Nikita,
how I look at it. How I look
yes,
at
Nikita
it.
is sorry, Nikita she's your student, so 2020 batch LLM.
Yes,
again,
she's
Okay, then I don't know. Okay, yeah, she's writing also that I'm your student 202.
student.
So maybe she is revising her understanding, I guess. Though, see, this is like when you try to understand this way of teaching jurisprudence and other law subjects. It is about understanding a difference between engineer and mechanic. You know, when you teach law, you are in a way giving a kind of idea that how law and legal system addresses certain issues. When you're teaching jurisprudence, I mean, that is, I equate with mechanic. When you are teaching jurisprudence, you are looking at why particular law and legal system for addressing that. So it is engineer. No? So when you are teaching jurisprudence, always keep this in mind that you are trying to make the student learn why, not only how. That is what is the strength of the subject of jurisprudence. So best way of making, I mean, one of the challenges of the teacher who teaches or the course instructor who engages jurisprudence is to engage with the students. You know, I would say that try to relate the development of law with the philosophy very closely. The philosophy, what you are taking it up. No, for example, when you say that law is command of sovereign, try to make the understand that sovereign means here whom? People, God, divine force. Is it transforming? Is it the same? How do we really? Because we all of us are reading that there is an understanding of positive law which says law is a command of sovereign. But then the important is that how do we really understand sovereign in today's context when there is a talk going on of right to recall? So should we mean that sovereign element here is getting contested? So try to make it connect, try to develop a connect with the ongoing issue, and so it is all about why. So you are somewhere giving the idea of philosophical and element of law. So that's how you try to connect it.
Okay,
Where
thank
are
you.
you teaching, Nikita? If you can also tell that, I'll be happy to take note of. Or you can send that to me in my chat box if you don't want to communicate to everyone. But I think this information you can communicate with everyone. Yes, any other question?
No, sir. Nikita, where are you working right now? Sir is asking. Please.
Okay, let her text.
Okay, please text in the chat box or through, sir. Please. Okay, thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insights with us. Now over to Kalpesh, sir. Please.
Yeah, sure, sure. So thank you very much, Uday sir, for your and then great insight and setting the stage for this our 2 weeks program. In spite of again, I would say not good health, you took the session. So being a like opener, so you kept your words and then you dealt with this particular session. It's a very outcome again suggested by Prasad sir. Kalpesh, this should be the first topic because first I was thinking it's a clinical legal education. Prasad sir, start, but sir suggested this should be the first topic, outcome based legal education, and then as I requested him, readily agreed for this particular topic. So thank you very much on behalf of organizing committee, sir. I'm
Yeah, but
grateful
you
for
should have then
your
requested
yes.
Prasad sir because he is a stalwart.
So sir will be taking tomorrow, sir. Clinical legal
Okay.
education. So more than that, so
Okay,
that
very
way
good.
I set up a sequence, sir. After taking his input, so I shifted him to the second position, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Look forward to future events, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I log out now?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you
very
so
much.
much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. If there are further questions, they can drop in a mail to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I also take this opportunity to make this announcement. There are 2 online courses of mine on constitutional law. If any of your students are interested, ask them to get enrolled. It's a Government of India, program where enrollment is free. If they are willing to take certificate, they can pay some nominal fee and they can get it done. I believe, Professor Kalpesh, if you can give me a minute, I can share the,
Yeah,
you
yes,
know,
yes. Please, please.
I can share the link with all of you.
Yeah, yes, sir. Definitely.
In the chat box, though already I've got a very good response where more than 2,600 students have enrolled for directive principal course. But then because Government of India makes a lot of effort, I think we have also got a responsibility to, ensure that students are getting benefited. So I will request my colleagues to.
Good evening, sir. I am Nikita Chaudhary, sir.
Yeah, Nikita, how are
2020
you?
LLM.
Yes,
Nice,
yes.
sir. Very good, sir. So I am assistant professor, sir, at Uttar Pradesh State Institute of Forensic Science.
Oh,
And
you are with Goswami, sir. Very good.
Goswami, sir.
yes, sir, yes, sir.
Very good. Very good.
So it was really enriching to listen to you, sir,
Mhm.
again over this talk, and I
Good.
am very thankful to the organizers also who give us the opportunity to again listen to sir. Sir is very,
Yeah.
very.
Thank you for
So
joining.
programs,
Really
all the
appreciate.
programs are happening because of our like seniors. So readily they are agreed for all the programs. So things are
Yeah,
happening.
no,
We are just instrumental.
Professor Kalpesh, we are just contributing a bit to your effort. You have been doing wonderful job. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you,
Nikita.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Right,
Best
sir.
wishes. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
I'm logging out, Professor Kalpesh.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr.
Thank
Kalpesh,
you,
sir.
Dr.
Thank you.
Nois. Yeah, thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Nois and Dr. Sangeeta for joining, and thank you all the participants for joining. And I look forward to see you tomorrow session. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kalpesh, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.